following is a special presentation of ABC Sports.
1 week ago, it was the 78th running of the Indianapolis 500. The greatest spectacle in racing was filled with incredible images. Side-by-side racing at better than 220 miles an hour. Penske teammates Unser and Fittipaldi, each fighting for racing's greatest prize. For Fittipaldi, it was $1 million mistake, giving Al $1 million day, his second Indianapolis crown. Now, it's the road to the championship in the Miller Genuine Draft 200 on the Milwaukee Mile. 4 years ago, Al spun here, but it didn't faze Junior. He made Milwaukee his first oval win. Michael Andretti's had mixed luck here, like running out of fuel on the last lap at 90, and then winning back-to-back the next 2 years. It was on the Milwaukee Mile last year that Nigel Mansell scored his first oval win. That began his climb to the PPG Championship and historic back-to-back crowns in Formula One and in IndyCar. The players are all here. The road to the championship is ahead. The challenge is 200 laps on the Milwaukee Mile. IndyCar drivers have begun to strap on their cars. Let's go to the starting grid and Jack Arute.
Paul, what a difference 1 week makes. CART IndyCar sanctions the Milwaukee Mile, not USAC, so the Mercedes engines used by Team Penske for an Indy 500 victory are not allowed. 12 months ago, this man driving a Dick Simon car, Raul Boesel, was on the pole. He's on the pole again, but they're winless. They've never won an IndyCar race. On the outside of row number 1, it's Paul Tracy, the Canadian, having a terrible season so far. He wants to turn it around today. And look at Derek Walker's team on the inside of row number 2. Robbie Gordon, with his best qualifying effort in his career, he'll start in third position. And flanking him on the outside, the youngster who is the youngest IndyCar driver of the season, Jacques Villeneuve, hot off his second place at the Indy 500, his first tour of the Milwaukee Mile today. There are even more stories in rows 3 and 4, right, Gary Gerould?
A lot of surprises, Jack. You start right here inside row 3. Scott Goodyear. Remember how he struggled last month to make the field at Indianapolis? Here he is now, starting number 5 on the grid. And alongside, Dominic Dobson for the Pac West team. He has the second fastest qualifying effort of his career, but problems this morning. He got into the wall during a warm-up session, extensively damaged one side of the car. They've made repairs. He'll start in the 3rd row. And then back in the 4th row, even more surprises. You've got Brian Hurta in only his second IndyCar race for A.J. Foyt. He starts inside row number 4, an impressive rookie from the Indy Lights ranks. The veteran Emerson Fittipaldi alongside in row number 4. Only 1 second separates the top 19 qualifiers today. And back in the field, many other marquee names, starting with Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, and defending 500 champion Al Unser Jr. Paul, we've got the ingredients for a sensational race on the Milwaukee Mile.
Gary, some truly great stories here today. Now, as we speak to you live, it is overcast here with a report that there is rain just 60 miles to the west of us in Madison, Wisconsin, so we'll keep an eye on that throughout the afternoon. Now, you use so many words to describe the Milwaukee Mile. It's tight, it's flat, it's incredibly fast, it's torturous. And all those words are why fans and race drivers alike enjoy the Milwaukee Mile. It's created some great races over its history as the oldest racetrack in the United States, if not in the world. Well, the drivers are ready. 26 IndyCars on the grid. Let's take a look at the starting grid. On the pole, it's Raul Boesel, last year's pole winner and second-place finisher, alongside Paul Tracy, who's starting second in his second race at Milwaukee. In row 2, it's Robbie Gordon, who was leading at Phoenix when he ran out of fuel, and Jacques Villeneuve, coming off a second-place finish in the Indy 500. Row 3, Scott Goodyear, who led 35 laps here last year, and Dominic Dobson, the IndyCar veteran, making his first Milwaukee start. In row 4, to the inside is Brian Hurta, making his second IndyCar start for the legendary A.J. Foyt, and Emerson Fittipaldi, the winner at Phoenix. Row 5, Nigel Mansell, the defending champion here, and Teo Fabi. The 6th row, Indy winner Al Unser Jr. and Michael Andretti. Row 7, Mario Andretti and Stefan Johannson. Row 8, Scott Sharp and Jimmy Vasser. In the 9th row, Mauricio Gugelmin and Ari Liontin. Row 10, Bobby Rahal and Willie T. Ribbs. Row 11, Marco Greco and Mark Smith. The 12th row, Mike Groff and Buddy Lazier. And the 13th row, Hiro Manjushna and Adrian Fernandez. 26 IndyCars are ready to go. Now we want to give our best wishes to our Indy producer, Bob Goodrich, who is not feeling well. Bob, get well soon, please.
Draft 200, brought to you by Cold Filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. Haviland Formula 3 Motor Oil, add more life to your car. Target, where you can expect more and pay less. And Split Fire, the patented performance spark plug. It only costs more until you use it.
We're back live at the Milwaukee Mile, where the cry is ready to go out for the 26 IndyCars to start their engines. Now, Sam Posey, this track has a reputation for creating brand new winners.
Well, Paul, it's an interesting statistic. 4 great drivers, Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, Michael Andretti, and Al Unser Jr. have all won their first oval IndyCar race here at Milwaukee.
Well, if that is true, then Bobby Unser, who are you looking for as a potential winner?
Well, the guys that could get on Sam's list are Boesel, Robbie Gordon, and Jacques Villeneuve. And Paul, they're all fast here at Milwaukee this weekend.
All right, so the command has gone out for the green flag. Will be out in just a few minutes, and we'll be back for the start of the Miller Genuine Draft 200 here on the Milwaukee Mile. We're live at the Milwaukee Mile as Johnny Rutherford in the PPG pace car has concluded the first of the parade laps leading up to the pace lap of the race. Johnny Rutherford there in that red Mustang. Raul Boesel, he was on the pole here 1 year ago. The weather, well, there is the chance of some rain here this afternoon. Everybody is keeping an eye to the west. That's the sky from which the weather comes. 200 laps, 200 miles. The race record is held here by Michael Andretti, set in 1992. And, of course, Nigel Mansell is the defending champion here. Still looking for his first win this year as we take a look over Nigel's right-hand shoulder. Robbie Gordon, that spectacular camera mount from the Indianapolis 500 on the left side. Over Michael Andretti's right rear tire. The camera actually mounted on the rear wing of the car. Over the right shoulder of the pole sitter, Raul Boesel. And then we've got that nose cam from Bobby Rahal's car where you can look right out front. No antenna on it this time, though, so it's a totally unobstructed view that you have as they cross over the start-finish line once again and down into the first turn, while the pace car is already coming off a turn 2 and onto the backstretch. There's the field, nicely aligned. Paul Tracy alongside in the front row. The second row of Robbie Gordon and Jacques Villeneuve. They begin to close to their more traditional lineup and tuck right in as close as they can. It's almost as if Robbie Gordon is beginning to telegraph a move to the inside. We'll keep an eye on him. The first 4 rows well aligned as Raul Boesel paces him off the corner, picks up the pace. And here we go. Tracy sweeping down toward the outside, trying to get around Raul Boesel. They come off the corner side by side. Tracy forges ahead.
Well, that's one of the best contests between a Ford and a Chevy engine or an Elmore engine that I ever saw, Paul.
Michael Andretti trying to make a move up through the field now. We'll stay on board with him for a second as Tracy takes over the lead from Raul Boesel. Gordon is third. Villeneuve is fourth.
Tracy had trouble all through the warm-up, couldn't put 2 laps together. Suddenly, the Penske team seems to have gotten his car right.
A lot of struggling during this morning's warm-up session, which also, by the way, caused some damage to Dominic Dobson's car and to Adrian Fernandez's car. They both got into the wall, but both were repaired in time to start. Michael Andretti on the start there was able to jump from 12th up to 5th. We're back on board with Michael.
That's a lot of these drivers, Paul. Milwaukee is the place that they like the most. For the small track, the short track, this is the place. And this is one of the guys right here, Michael Andretti. He just loves the place.
That right rear tire turning about 2,000 RPM right now.
On the home stretch now, in front of the grandstand with the largest crowd I've ever seen here at the Milwaukee Mile. Spectacular crowd here today. Paul Tracy runs alone in the lead.
of course, had a big lead here last year when he ran into trouble, had a crash, and that has been the story so often for him in races. It's funny, though, now that Indy is over, it's as if a great weight was lifted off Tracy. He's really racing today.
Second place, Raul Boesel. You ride with him now. Paul Tracy just sits ahead as they work to the backstretch.
Now watch as we're on board with these cameras and the guys go into the turns. Watch and see how they go down. Use the yellow line or the white line to the left as your guide. You can see the yellow line and the white line, and you can see the different patterns that the different guys use. For example, Boesel or right there, Paul Tracy. They all have different concepts of how they're going to go through the turn.
Bobby, as we watch Raul Boesel here in the orange and black car, I talked to him about 20 minutes before the start. I said, Raul, it's had a great weekend for you. You've got the pole, everything looks good. He said, yeah, but the car is very tricky to handle here. It goes from understeer to oversteer and back to understeer in just a lap or two. Very hard driving, he said.
You can watch Boesel right there as he went through 3 and 4 turns, Sam. He never went underneath the yellow line. He touched it 2 times, stayed out. Now on that turn, that's considered kind of a high line.
Emerson Fittipaldi battles with rookie Brian Herta. It's a fight for 6th place.
Herta in the black A.J. Foyt car on the left of the screen.
Fittipaldi tried to put the nose down inside, lost momentum, had to pull back out of it.
And he really is just doing a fake deal on Herta. He wants to get Herta to pull down, tighten his line up, Paul, and slow down a little bit.
This is only Herta's second race, and he lets Emerson by.
There goes Fittipaldi as he moves into 6th place, and Herta will quickly have a challenge from behind. Now, Villeneuve comes out to challenge the back end of Robbie Gordon. This is a fight for 3rd.
And a fight among 2 brilliant young drivers. 25 years old, Robbie Gordon. 23, Jacques Villeneuve.
Now the Villeneuve in the car that's in 2nd right here on the screen. A little different blue there. He's been shifting, Sam and Paul. He's been coming out of the turn, running about a 4th way down the straightaway, shifting into a higher gear, which means in the turns or out of the turns, he has a little lower gear ratio.
Back on board, Michael, as Penske cars continue to come up through the field. First it was Emerson coming around, as now Unser Jr. begins to challenge Michael. And Michael's not going to have much of it. But Junior's in a position off the corner.
Great racing at Milwaukee. You see this all the time, side-by-side racing.
Now those 2 guys run together enough to where they kind of know what each other are going to do. That's the only way they can run side by side all the way through 1 and 2 turns there, Paul.
Bobby, you've raced a lot of laps at this track. How would you rate it among all the tracks in the country to drive?
Sam, I think it's the nicest oval track that we have. It's a perfect oval. Both turns are the same shape. The track is flat. It's always what they call a driver's racetrack, or the guys really have to work hard.
Fittipaldi tries to the inside of Villeneuve, can't get that job done. There's Tracy, still the leader of the race, but now he begins to encounter traffic. Boesel comes out to take the slower traffic. Now here comes Robbie Gordon, Villeneuve, and Fittipaldi as they will come into the slower cars, and that will make a world of difference in how they get around.
Now Fittipaldi's going to cause Jacques Villeneuve right there on the right-hand side to go a little bit harder. You see, look at there. Whoa, he didn't either. He just blew right by him.
So Fittipaldi now up to challenge Robbie Gordon. And here comes Little Al. He'll try to dial around the outside of Villeneuve. Then he comes to the inside on the front stretch. Here Robbie Gordon battles with Fittipaldi. You got a glimpse of it for a second. Here is Little Al as he comes off of 2, still trying to get Jacques, and Fittipaldi has passed Gordon. Brian Herta is right there. No, that's Mark Smith. There comes Little Al as he gets caught behind Mark Smith.
Well, the traffic in Milwaukee is rough. You know, you're only taking just in the lower 20-second bracket to get around this track. 23 to 24 seconds a lap. Boy, the traffic gets really bad like it is right now.
Little Al, of course, jumped up from 11th place. Scott Goodyear is having some problems. He fell from 5th back to 14th. You're on board, Robbie Gordon.
Watch how wide a line Robbie Gordon takes through the turn. Whoa!
Little Al drops to the inside of Robbie, and just that quickly he has passed. The Penske car is very definitely on the move.
Gordon has been taking a wide line through the turns all weekend, passing cars in practice, and I think it'll serve him well in the race because he'll be able to make passes on the slower cars that others can't.
Now, you know, a lot of the passing is done as you go into the turns, as you watch Little Al doing it. It's driving deep. The cars the drivers don't use an awful lot of brakes there. They just barely use the brakes.
For second place as here comes Fittipaldi past Boesel, and Emerson Fittipaldi picks up second. So Penske cars now run 1 and 2.
And Little Al is on the move. A classic Little Al race where he starts deep in the field, 11th, and then comes on hard toward the middle of the race.
So Boesel falls backwards as Paul Tracy moves to the front of the field on the start. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station. Back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200, we're seeing some great racing. Emerson Fittipaldi just snatched the lead away from Paul Tracy. And Penske cars 1, 2, and 3. Fittipaldi, Tracy, and Little Al. Little Al now working to the outside of Tracy.
I have never seen a team fight as hard within itself as these three guys are going, switching back and forth, sometimes once every lap, and just going all over the place, passing the guys high and low. Paul, it's amazing.
And already the three Penske cars have pulled away from the fourth place car, which is Jacques Villeneuve at the moment. They're 4 seconds up on Villeneuve.
Let's go down pit side for a report on Raul Boesel. Here's Gary.
Well, he started from the pole, but unfortunately with his changing weather conditions, the setup isn't working. They picked up a push. The car's not responding. They want yellow, of course, so they can make a change as soon as possible. They have to wait and hang on as best they can. Let's go to Jack.
And Gary, those changing weather conditions are exactly what Emerson Fittipaldi credits for the way he's running so well as compared to yesterday afternoon. In the last practice session, he told his crew, don't make many changes because I think the track will come to us. It'll get hot. It'll get greasy. He likes it just the way the car is right now.
Jack, the car that the three Penske cars has just roared by is Bobby Rahal, who, of course, was so competitive at Indianapolis last week. Great drive, finished third today. He switched back to Honda power, not doing so well.
We take a look at the running order after 24 miles. Fittipaldi still in front, followed by Little Al and then Paul Tracy. Now, remember, as Jack suggested at the start, we're looking at a Penske car with an entirely different power plant. This is the Elmore D engine, not the Mercedes-Benz that ran so powerfully at Indianapolis. So the playing field is a bit more level, Bobby.
Or to explain it further, Paul, that the engine is very similar to the Ford. Even though they're made by two different manufacturers, they're the same cubic inches, the same lower pressure. Other than that, they're turning about the same RPM. So it's a very level playing field, as you said.
Level playing field, except it seems to be utterly dominated by these red and day-glow white cars of Penske. I mean, have you ever seen, Bobby, Penske so dominant? I mean, he's got cars running 1, 2, 3 and pulling away.
Sam, for about 10 laps there, we couldn't even tell who was in first and who was in second for a while. They were passing so often.
One of the things that you tend to forget when an engine is as powerful as the Mercedes was at Indianapolis is how really good the chassis is. And of course, we've seen this Nigel Bennett designed Penske chassis perform so very well throughout the season, winning at Long Beach, winning at Phoenix.
And just so everybody knows, on the RPM, they're all turning about 13 to 13,500. Some of them 13.5. But most of them have two gears in the transmission. One for what you call cruising. If there's no race like this is really a race now, they'll be running the low gear, just going like heck, probably turn 13.5.
Continuing to watch the run at the front of the field.
Remember that Emerson Fittipaldi made an uncharacteristic driving error late in the race, 16 laps to go at Indianapolis last week. That may be holding him, Little Al down on the inside, Emerson on the outside.
Oh, look at all this traffic as they come onto the backside. Little Al down to the inside. They were 3 wide off the corner. But Fittipaldi threads his way in behind tail Bobby.
Traffic makes so much difference at this particular time. Whoa! Little Al going way underneath there, and everybody else bogged ammo down, and he got by.
So Unser Jr. now picks up the lead of the race.
A lot of those passes like that are gambles. Little Al didn't know until he came out of the turn that it was going to be free and clear underneath.
Well, I'll tell you, Little Al used to wait for half distance or even later before he would take over the lead. He'd work his way up carefully. Not so today. This is very early in the race to see him burst into the lead.
So Unser Jr. now has to be point man for the Penske team as they come through traffic.
Remember that he's one of the 4 great drivers who won his first oval IndyCar race right here. So he has good memories of this place.
Now you see him move his groove right out just as soon as he got by Emil there. He moved out a full car width in the same turn.
They both come around Stefan Johannson and Adrian Fernandez. Unser Jr. still having to handle traffic, which will be what we normally see throughout the afternoon, barring yellows on this course. On board now with Raul Boesel, as he is battling with Robbie Gordon for 5th place.
That's Gordon just ahead of him and to the right. Now watch Gordon take a high, wide line going into this turn. See, he's way outside of where Raul is running, and he stays out there the whole way through the turn.
Yes, you know, he did that in Indianapolis, Sam. Do you remember what, coming off of number 2, I kept telling you guys that Gordon was way high in his own groove? Well, he's doing the same thing here now. That's good and it's bad. He'll make a good groove out there if he stays there long enough, and sometimes it's a sign of a good driver.
Less room for error, though, Bobby, when you're out there?
There's a lot of room right now for error, but he'll get it cleaned off pretty soon.
That's 5th place, Robbie Gordon just ahead. Let's just ride with this car and listen to how he controls the throttle.
Shows you what he's doing in the turn, Paul, and what he does coming off. He's coming off like number 2 now, down the straightaway, walk, full open throttle, all the way down. Look at the RPM up to about 12,800 there.
So Robbie Gordon, as he works his way around, Michael Andretti was able to pull up on Raul Boesel and move past as well. Jack Arute, you have an update for us on Robbie?
Well, Paul, looks as if Robbie may get just a little more racy in the Valvoline car. He had a severe understeer problem. The car was pushing badly, but it seems as if the track is coming to him. Derek Walker said he radioed in and said, thus far, it's getting better every lap.
You ride back now with Nigel Mansell as we keep an eye on Michael Andretti and Raul Boesel line just ahead. There is Nigel as he tries to get around Michael. Whoa, he's going to take him close to the wall with that one.
Well, that was a close one there. Michael didn't see him for a while, kept moving out. You could see Nigel was getting a little nervous.
Considerable rivalry between Nigel Mansell and Michael Andretti, of course, stemming from their incident on the first lap down in Australia at the beginning of the season. No love lost between those two drivers.
Michael Andretti rides in 8th place, the last car on the leader lap. The leaders should be lining up just behind Michael here shortly. Nigel is 7th, then Raul Boesel in 6th. There they are all together as Nigel begins to challenge on Raul, and they move around Mark Smith.
Nigel at last having a really good race this year. He's had a couple of places. He's well up in the championship, but he hasn't really moved well through the traffic. He is now.
You know, Sam, I think the deal, a lot of it between Nigel and Michael is not bad feelings, except that Nigel is in the position with the same team where Michael used to be with. And I think there's always just a slight amount of jealousy on things like that. But they respect each other, and they both win in the same team. So that shows you it's a team that's really good in a lot of ways.
Well, I agree with you, Bobby. And of course, last year, Nigel was very solicitous of Michael's troubles in Formula One. He did everything he could to help him out with advice.
Now Nigel Mansell lines up on Raul Boesel. Just ahead of them is Jacques Villeneuve.
Look at how much is going on in these cars. I mean, look at the steering here. A few changes to that steering wheel every few seconds. It's tough going, Paul.
Nigel is going clear down almost to the grass. He's using kind of a late apex. Some of the guys that are going slower use an earlier apex.
Michael Andretti has gone a lap down to the leaders, and now the leader, Unser Jr., is pulling up behind Nigel Mansell as there goes Fittipaldi around Nigel. And this race is at its 42nd lap and has been green right from the go.
Remember at Indy a week ago, the Penske cars were dominant there too, but the other guys had the hope, the other drivers could hope that there would be a mechanical problem that would strike the Penske cars. There's less chance of that today, don't you agree?
So Unser Jr. continues to slice his way through this field, followed by his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy running in 3rd. We'll be back with more from the Milwaukee Mile. We're back back at Milwaukee, as you take a look at the interval standings, the Penske cars, first, second, and third, are the only cars on the lead lap. We're back now on a battle a bit down in the field as Michael Andretti closes on Raul Boesel. Jacques Villeneuve sets just ahead of him. He comes around Arie Luyendyk. On board Michael.
Now this is really a good shot because you can see Michael's camera is on the wing right here. That's the tire going up and down. Milwaukee track is a little bit rough. They haven't repaved it. It needs to be done. But it's the most beautifully shaped racetrack, probably the short racetrack in the world.
Watching just ahead, Raul Boesel. As Michael takes it up to full chat and then right back out of it. Boesel here in 3 and 4 has been able to really dial down low in the corner. He closes on Villeneuve. Now to the inside of Jacques.
But what a change in the order of things from qualifying when Raul was on the pole and the Penskes were scattered through the pack to now they're running 1, 2, 3 and he is struggling.
And Raul gets caught behind slower traffic, and in doing so, Michael Andretti gets around. Now he's lost his momentum but comes back up to speed. That's Hiro Matsushita just behind him.
Also, as you can see up there's 148 laps to go. It's a 200-lap race.
Take a look at Nigel Mansell and Robbie Gordon as they go side by side. This is a battle for fourth.
And again, it's one of the few racetracks that you can really race side by side, all the way around the turns, all the way around the track a lot of times. There's Robbie Gordon watching way out, not even down anywhere near where most of the other guys are running.
Attendance here on the mile, 45,254 race fans enjoying this battle.
Here's the look out of the back of Nigel Mansell's car as you see Gordon dropping back as he passes Brian Herta. Gordon forced to an inside line. Mansell really struggling with the car but moving up place after place.
The front of the field remains Unser Jr., then Fittipaldi, then Paul Tracy. Nigel Mansell. Red number 1 right there, rides in 4th place. Gordon in 5th, Michael Andretti in 6th. Here's the running order after 54 laps.
The traffic is so bad sometimes you can watch as the cars go by the front straightaway. The flagman just almost holds the move-over flag out constantly. The fast cars are awesome fast. The other guys are getting lapped relatively pretty often.
Remember Mansell's great drive here last year when he won his first oval race. He's having another great drive today. If it weren't for the Penskes, he'd be leading this race. Right now he's first in class.
A lot of people thought the Mercedes engines, Sam, were carrying the Penske cars at Indianapolis. But, you know, they had a pretty good year already. Remember, little Al won Long Beach pretty easy. Paul Tracy, of course, or Emerson Fittipaldi, rather, of course, won Phoenix. And now here at Milwaukee, they're showing it isn't just the engine. The cars really do handle good.
Bobby, let me suggest that maybe at Indianapolis, the Mercedes engine actually handicapped the Penske team.
Well, it certainly seemed to slow their turn speed down a little bit. But, Sam, they had the straightaway speed. And that's ever so important for passing at Indianapolis.
Oh, there's no question about that. But you look at this race, and here they are running 1, 2, 3. It's an unbelievable demonstration of superiority.
The runs on the miles are tornadoes as they just rip around these courses. Many of the fans call them bull rings.
Oh, and the fans, there's so many here. It's such a good chance to talk to them before the start of the race. Everybody with an idea who might win the race, so keenly informed, particularly in the wake of Indy. Everybody's kind of up to speed of what's going on here.
Nigel Mansell inside of Mike Croft. Now, we're talking Honda power once again in both Ray Hall's car and in Mike Croft's car. Look at the gigantic crowd, though. They come over to the backside.
Yeah, remember, Ray Hall at Indianapolis was in one of Roger Penske's old one-year-old cars with Elmore power, whereas today, back in the Hondas for he and Croft, like you said, and they're lacking in straightaway speed again, very much like they did.
Let's go back with Bobby Rahal on board again. Honda power here, and Rahal currently runs in 14th. Tail Bobby just ahead.
14th place. This has to be really tough for Rahal because Miller Brewing, his sponsor, this is their hometown. Obviously, a lot of people out here rooting for him, and after his great third at Indy last week, they expect great things. it's hard for people to understand what the difference in horsepower could mean, and suddenly he's running in the back of the field instead of the front.
But, you know, Sam, the Honda fans are going to stick with him. Ray Hall, one good race driver. Miller's been sticking with him. They all realize that engines take a while to develop. The Honda's certainly going to take a little while, too.
I'll tell you, Bobby Rahal is one awesome driver. I hate to see him throw away the latter part of his career on technical problems, although if it pays off for him, it'll be fantastic, of course. He never makes a mistake.
Have to remember Honda's history in Formula One and how well, once they got the program together, the engine performed.
I think the only exception that we see to engines working right away or taking 1 or 2 years to do is, of course, Roger Penske. He's the only guy that seems to be able to think up something and do it in a very short time.
They're setting a record pace at 138.9 miles an hour. The record held by Michael Andretti is at 138 flat.
That's a view that you see off the front of Ray Hall's car. Gives you the feeling of the speed that these guys are actually doing.
Gives you an idea of how much faster he is in the curves than the group of cars that he's catching. Look at that.
Look how high that he's running right now. He isn't getting down to the bottom. Now, even when he was by himself, of course, he's passing a car now, Sam.
Inside of Mashushka. Alongside Mark Smith and past him. Raul Boesel is now 2 laps down to the leader, Unser Jr. Nothing changes at the front of the field. It's still little Al Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. And as we go up to the front of the field, Unser Jr., he is due to be in the pits just any time now as they split, coming around Marco Greco.
And you know, Paul, as the race goes on, you notice some of the guys switch from running low to running high. This is because when you lay down a lot of rubber and sludge leak, that the track gets slippery, so they just hunt for dry spots, just like we saw Robbie Rahal a while ago going way out wide, or we see Robbie Gordon in the Cummins car going way out wide.
Unser Jr. trying to put his teammate Paul Tracy down a lap to show you just how powerful little Al is, but very shortly he will head down pit road. And in fact, he's on his way right now. So Unser Jr. on lap 67 making his first pit stop of the day, and Jack Arute waits for him.
And remember, the pit speeds are only 80 miles an hour.
And Paul, what's going to be interesting to watch is they are going to go with sticker tires, brand new tires. Checking the rest of Team Penske, they anticipate going to scuffs. All 4 tires being changed, so they got a full load of fuel. This should enable them to make this a 2-stop race. 13.1 seconds, gentlemen.
Great stop for Team Penske. Little Al now in and out. Of course, Fittipaldi picked up the lead when Little Al came in.
Did you notice that Little Al didn't come anywhere near killing his engine like he did at Indianapolis? These engines, they rub them up really high, the little bitty engines, so they just engage the clutch, lets the tires do the slipping.
Well, a little bitty engine, about 800 horsepower, right?
Yeah, but it's only 160 cubic inches roughly, Paul. That's considered really small in a passenger car today.
Figured what I got on my moped, Bobby.
A lot of horsepower.
Little Al immediately back up to speed. Full fuel load, new tires, car feels quite different. He takes off again and starts passing cars just as he did before he stopped.
It takes 1 lap. When they put on cold tires, it takes 1 lap to get the tires, what we call seated back in, so they feel good again. And that's what it takes Little Al. And that's what it'll be for all of them when they put on the new tires.
So now the leader of the race, Fittipaldi, scheduled for his stop as he comes on the pit road. And there he is. And once again, Jack Arute is there to watch.
Well, as we said, gentlemen, they are going to elect to go with scuff tires. As Emerson Fittipaldi, and now the fuel man stumbles, doesn't get the nozzle in. He finally gets it connected now. This could make a long stop under green flag conditions. As we said, they have gone for scuff tires. Still now, fuel coming in. The time ticking away. This was costly as Paul Tracy cut him off stop coming in. Tracy's in for his stop now, guys.
And Unser Jr., you saw him reassume the lead of the race as Fittipaldi came into the pit, so the Penske cars are still running in the front of the field. And we wait, in fact, for most of the rest of the field to stop. Only the 3 leaders, the Penske cars, and Dominic Dobson and Buddy Lazier have made stops thus far. So the Penskes appear to be playing a conservative game on fuel.
Well, this changes often. You know, you never know how Roger Penske's thinking is going to go. But conservative, he always is early in the races. It's later on. Now, when Penske's taking his pit stops, and everybody should follow through with it, you can see how his personality is going to change because he's taken towards the latter part of the race now.
You talk about the importance of the pit stop, though. That better pit stop by Little Al has given him a 15-second lead over Emerson Fittipaldi. That's 2/3 of a lap. On board with Robbie Gordon. That fabulous view.
Unser Jr., Fittipaldi. With Paul Tracy stopped, Nigel Mansell moved into 3rd, but Nigel has not yet stopped.
Now let's see where Robbie Gordon, the Cummins car, is running compared. Look, now he's down. He's not running as high now. So it must have got a little bit slippery out there. You can watch. He's down close to the yellow line. Let's watch going into turn 3 now. Starts coming down a little bit. He's down a little bit below the yellow line. So you can see how all the drivers change as the track conditions change.
Maturity showing in Robbie Gordon's approach. Last year he had problems and a pit stop. He almost spun. Then he spun when he was battling with Ray Hall really near the end of the race. So far today, a perfect race.
75 laps into the record book for Unser Jr. Green flag the entire way.
You know, it is amazing, Paul, that we haven't seen any sort of a yellow flag. Everything has been flat out since the start, and we're not too far from being halfway there.
Michael Andretti on the pit road now. He's in 5th place as he heads in for his first stop of the day. Four tires, on and off.
Now you notice another thing. Some of the cars will have what we call sticker tires on them that have never run before. Some of them will have seated-in tires. Now, if you watch with Michael here, you see those white little things going around? Those are stickers, brand new tires.
Looks like they were dialing more wing in to the right front. It's actually a split wing up there, Bobby, and the outside section is what they appear to adjust.
Yeah, Paul, they really have 4 wings on the front. And what they're doing is he's pushing a little bit. At this time of the race, which is almost halfway, the track is getting slippery, so usually it pushes a little bit.
Nigel Mansell is into the pits as Emerson Fittipaldi runs the fastest lap of the race at 146 miles an hour, Gary.
Nigel Mansell hits the marks. We got a radio report saying that it's loose as a goose. He says he almost lost it on one occasion. So the crew now putting scuff tires on and, of course, servicing with fuel down off the jacks. And Mansell is rolling 13 and a fraction seconds. Excellent stop for the Newman Haas team.
What they mean, Gary, is loose. They mean the rear end is loose. The car wants to spin out. The worst thing that a driver can have. And you notice they didn't tighten the front wing or raise them up on that. They absolutely have to tighten the rear end down.
Rumors continue to circulate that this man, Nigel Mansell, on the screen will be going to Formula One this year to drive races that do not conflict with IndyCar racing, possibly or probably for the Williams team. There are only rumors at this point as far as we know, but he's driving a beautiful race here today, certainly.
There is Jimmy Vasser, who drove a great race in Indianapolis, though he is struggling a bit here today. But Vasser is one of these young men that we really have to keep an eye on because, as Sam Posey suggested, anyone can win on one of these ovals, and Vasser would be a very good candidate. At the front of the field, though, it is Unser Jr., followed by Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, and Robbie Gordon, then pole sitter Raul Boesel.
City. It's the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix next Sunday on ABC.
We're back on the Milwaukee Mile. Raul Boesel and Robbie Gordon go side by side. Not a battle for position, though.
They've been that way all the way around the racetrack, Paul. They may not even know whether they're in position for racing or whether they're just racing each other for the heck of it.
Boy, shades of the Indy 500 as the two are side by side. Tonight on ABC, watch America have fun on America's Funniest Hour. Then spend an hour with America's super couple, Lois and Clark. And then an ABC miniseries event begins, The Kennedys of Massachusetts. It's all tonight here on ABC. Raul Boesel. He runs in 8th place. Stefan Johannson lined up behind him, and then Jimmy Vasser breaks into the top 10. We'll give you a rundown on the entire field here. Unser Jr., Fittipaldi, Paul Tracy, first, second, and third. Then Mansell, then Michael Andretti, then Brian Herta in 6th. Then Boesel, Gordon, Johannson, and Vasser. That's the lineup. Only Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi run on the same lap. There's Brian Herta, A.J. Foyt's car, number 14.
He's really doing a good job. You know, this is only his second IndyCar race, and he just literally looks like he was born and running here. I think Foyt's found him a good boy there, Paul.
He's majoring in economics at Ohio State, and you would think really that he is a professor, a very scholarly, slight-looking young man, wears glasses, the antithesis of A.J. Foyt, who takes everything so physically and is so buoyant. Brian Herta, introverted, but he's a great racing driver.
You know, Sam, he has a good tendency to listen to Foyt. Foyt's a very smart race driver, knows an awful lot, and if he could transfer his knowledge over to a young man like this, I think it could really help him a lot.
Brian Herta, 6th place. I think I said that Boesel and Gordon weren't going for position a few minutes ago. Not true, as you saw by the lineup. Boesel now runs in 7th, Gordon in 8th, out of contact with one another. The Penske cars, Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi, the only 2 cars on the lead lap. Let's go pit side, Gary Gerould.
Paul, an interested bystander in the Bobby Rahal pit is former Major League Baseball great Robin Yount of the Milwaukee Brewers. They retired his number last week. He's now retired, of course, and it's the first time, because his baseball career is over, that he's had a chance to be in the pits. He's a great race fan. He's cheering on Rahal, and he's enjoying his day here in Milwaukee, now as a retired professional baseball athlete.
Michael Andretti inside of Ari Luyendyk. Michael runs in 5th. Mansell is his competition ahead.
How many stickers are on that car, do you think, Bobby? A quick quiz on Michael's car.
Well, I couldn't tell you, Sam, but there's a bunch of them anyway.
Mike Hull told me 88 separate stickers. That's a budget all in its own.
Now, Sam, is that 88 different types of stickers or 88 in total?
Now, don't press me too much on this one. 102 on Nigel Mansell's car.
Sorry you even got started with it. Unser Jr. in front, then Fittipaldi. Let's go to the pits and Checkered.
Well, Paul, 2 interesting things during that first series of pit stops. It looks as if maybe Team Penske played it very close to the vest. They pitted early. Meanwhile, although they're a lap ahead of everybody else, the rest of the competition could stretch it into the 80 lap mark. So they're getting pretty good fuel mileage. An update on one Penske driver that we talked about at the top of the show, your outside pole center, Paul Tracy. He is encountering severe understeer, pushing problems specifically as he exits turn 2 and exits turn 4.
So Unser Jr., who picked up the lead from Fittipaldi after Fittipaldi picked it up from Tracy, continues his dominance here, just like the Indianapolis 500. The Miller Genuine Draft 200 continues. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station.
Draft 200, brought to you by American Honda, who's been making quality cars in America for the past 11 years. AC Delco Automotive Parts. AC Delco, it's like buying time. Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever only at Sears. And Wendy's. After 25 years, quality is still our recipe.
The Miller Genuine Draft 200. Nothing changes in the order. Unser Jr. is still the leader as Robbie Gordon reaches up and pulls a tearaway off the front of his helmet. The sun has come out here as we cross the 104th lap, so officially it's a race should it rain. But the indication is now that we'll have sunshine to the end of the run here today. And Checkered, This has been a most remarkable run, green to this point, but there's other facts as well.
Well, it's incredible. I can't remember the last time that we could be beyond the halfway mark in an IndyCar race, and nobody has dropped out of the event. All 26 starters continue running here at the Milwaukee Mile. I'll tell you what, down here on pit road, there isn't a lot going on except for those 19 and 20-second stops several laps ago. One other point we'd like to bring up, too, is one member of Stefan Johansson's Tony Bettenhausen team is not here at the Milwaukee Mile. Tona Eddington, who was injured at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, is resting in her hospital at Methodist Hospital, and all the IndyCar teams send their best wishes to Tona. Let's check in further down pit road with Gary Gerould. Gary, what's going on there?
Well, Jack, we also want to pass on our best wishes to Dan Torborg. He's known as Dashboard Dan. He's the electronics genius who works for Nigel Mansell. And unfortunately, after the 500 last weekend, he was in an automobile accident in Chicago. Had to have surgery for removal of a blood clot earlier this week. He's going to be away from the scene. He has been one of the Championship Association of Mechanics all-star team members in recent years, and he's sorely missed by Mansell and his crew. And I know he wishes he was here today as he watches Nigel try to catch those Penske cars.
On board now with Raul Boesel. Brian Herta sits just ahead.
Jack, the most cars ever to finish one of the IndyCar races this year was 19 at Phoenix. So we're seeing something, your report, it's unprecedented to see so many cars running this deep in the race.
Well, Sam, I think it has to tell you something about how well-heeled a lot of these teams are becoming. You see people like Buddy Lazier beginning to show, Scott Sharp, Dominic Dobson. We've got a lot of very strong teams in competition, especially here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Exactly. It's a very mature series at this point.
I think we're seeing better racing right now than we have seen here at Milwaukee in our memories. It doesn't make any difference whether it's the leader or if it's clear back to the back.
Raul Boesel now drops to the inside of Brian Herta. Here's a battle for position as Boesel takes Herta's 7th position away from him. That's Mario just ahead. Mario is running another 2 laps back in the run itself. But Herta's not going to have any of this. He's going to stay right back in the fight.
Now, sometimes that does a little wake-up call to the driver. Sometimes you run around there and you think you're going as fast as you can. And you haven't tried enough different grooves. Somebody passes you and you say, wow, I'll try his groove, and it works better often.
Let's get an update on Brian Herta from Gary.
I'll tell you what, Paul, A.J. Foyt is like a caged lion here on pit wall. He's unhappy because Herta, in that battle, he says that Mario keeps chopping his rookie driver off. And the fiery, competitive spirit is very much in evidence down here as he stands on pit wall, watching now for the field to come out of turn 4.
Well, you know, this is a race with incredible mental strain in it simply because there are so many cars still running. You've got the guys you're battling with and all the cars you've got to be lapping too. There are just more cars on a small 1-mile track than we're used to, and that's got to be tough for Herta.
Sam, this used to be considered a pretty big track, the mile track here at Milwaukee. So today's speeds, as fast as these cars are, it's considered, like you said, a small track. They come around so fast.
Well, Mario won't be a problem for Brian Herta anymore now. He's out and away from Mario, but he's still been broken off in his battle from Raul Boesel. I'm going to try and set it up so we can take a look just at the entire field as they come through for you. We'll keep an eye on Herta. There he is on the backside. Going into turn 3. 3 and 4. And back onto the home stretch. There goes Boesel through. Mansell, here comes Herta. There's Bobby Rahal. Jacques Villeneuve comes through. There's Michael. Stefan Johannson.
Goodyear, of course, has had a trouble-plagued season, culminating in his nearly not being in the Indy 500. And suddenly he rebounded to qualify 5th here. Terrific. And, of course, he ran 2nd here for much of the race last year until he had problems. We thought maybe he was back on track, but he's not running well now. Once the green flag dropped, he went back in the pack. He's having trouble once again.
They're having trouble. That team is just not clicking, Sam. They just have not looked good all season, and I don't think that Scott's a bad race driver. I think he's a very good one. Something is just not clicking in that team, though.
Fernandez and Landijk move underneath Scott Goodyear there. There's Boesel.
I think we can say that any driver that can win the Michigan 500 and finish second to your nephew at Indy is a good racing driver. There's another problem there somewhere in that team.
No changes at the front of the field. It's still Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi. The battle right now continues to revolve around Brian Herta and Bobby Rahal. Now we ride for the second on Raul Boesel, who sits just in front of Herta.
Well, he's running clear down to the bottom, Paul.
Been doing that all day through 3 and 4. So as Raul Boesel now begins to overhaul Arie Luyendyk, we look to the front of the field, and it's still Little Al and Emerson Fittipaldi, the Penske cars. Well, next week here on ABC Sports, this man, Unser Jr., the Indianapolis 500 winner, and IndyCar's best, hit the streets of Motown. It's the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix next Sunday at 2 o'clock Eastern, 1 Central and Pacific time, right here on ABC Sports. So Unser Jr. leads it. He is followed by Emerson Fittipaldi, who is trailing close behind. They are the only two on the lead lap, and Fittipaldi is beginning to close in on Little Al. So we may see a battle here between the two Penske cars. Third place is Paul Tracy. Nigel Mansell sits back and forth, followed by Michael Andretti.
Fittipaldi was as much as 14, 15 seconds back. He's now in the same shot, so to speak. You see him there.
The most remarkable thing is we have gone now 125 miles of the 200, and we have been green flag all the way. The first pit stop's already completed, of course. Though an interesting difference between the stops made by the Penske cars and those made by the rest of the field. The Penske cars seem to come in very early.
It's obvious that the settings that these two drivers have now favor Emerson Fittipaldi, whereas in the first segment, before the first pit stops, they favored Unser Jr.
As we watch the lead and the battle at the front of the race, let's go to Gary Gerould.
Paul, quick follow-up. We mentioned in the open that Dobson had difficulties in the warm-up session this morning. They had to rob a lot of parts off the spare car, and then, of course, an untested setup, and they went on the track. It's not been a good day. The car's not handled well. He's currently in 16th place. His teammate Scott Sharp runs 12th. Let's go to Jack.
Gary, you may be wondering what has happened to Jacques Villeneuve after qualifying in the second row. Checking in with Barry Green, he tells us right from the beginning the car has been extremely loose. They haven't been able to solve the problem, so he has to battle with it. In the interim, Unser Jr.'s team is getting ready to service him for what should be the final time. And once again, gentlemen, they are going to go with sticker tires.
Well, again, they're also going to do what Penske's figure tells them, where he's going to lose the least amount of time, Jack. One of the things that Penske doesn't want to do, if he can help it, is bring somebody in and have them go back out in traffic. He would rather bring them in clean, just like he is right now with Little Al.
So Unser Jr., the leader of the race, is on the pit road. 129th lap, and he elects to make a stop, Jack.
And they go to work. The Penske team so methodical, making the changes. This should be, as we said, their final lap, their final pit stop. Taking on a full load of 40 gallons of methanol. They've got it, and they're away in 12 seconds.
Well, that was a good stop for your last stop. The fuel in the tank is not really very high, so they really did a good run on that.
Most critically, though, no apparent chassis changes, right, Jack?
Sam, they haven't made any major or minor chassis changes that we've been able to see in either of their two stops. And I was very fascinated that of all the Penske cars, they're the only ones that have elected each and every stop to go with sticker tires. Seems to me that maybe Jerry Breon saved their guys, their special tires for race day. You know, you're only allowed so many sets of tires during the course of a weekend. And now Emerson Fittipaldi is about to put his car on the pit road for service.
Fittipaldi, who picked up the lead from Unser Jr.
One thing you got to keep in mind, that towards the end of the race, it's really important to have new tires. Now, Penske's pitting early, and it's all good now because he's keeping his drivers out of traffic and all, which I think is all good, but they won't have as good a tires towards the end of the race as some of the others will.
Let's go back to the Penske pits and Jack.
Unconfirmed reports, gentlemen, that Emerson Fittipaldi might have been experiencing a slight understeer problem. Rick Reineman working on the right side, a momentary problem with getting the lug nut off, but he completes his task. The longest part of the stop, taking on fuel, he does it in 12.6 seconds.
And again, no obvious aerodynamic changes to the car on that stop.
That slight push, though, apparently was the fast setup for that last segment of the race because he was closing in throughout.
And you can see little Al come right by Emil as Emil came out of the pit. So they're back in about the same position that they came in a little while ago, and their pit stops are about equal also.
As he flashes over the line this time, Unser Jr. will be scored as the leader of the race. And to this point, only Penske cars have led in the Miller Genuine Draft 200.
And look at that, even with a full fuel load, little Al was able to outrace Robbie Gordon, who's approaching a pit stop and whose car should at this point be faster.
But of course, Sam, the new tires are always a lot faster. Milwaukee, you can notice they're going out on sticker tires. It really feels good, but that goes away in about 10 laps.
But does this tell us something about what's happening on the race course and how slick it might be? Michael Andretti's race record at 138 miles an hour is still not approached. It was early, but right now they're only averaging 136 even. Is that the rule changes, or is the track slowing down?
I think the track is slowing down, and I think the traffic has an awful lot to do with it, Paul. There's not very many cars that are out of this race so far, and you never see cars out of traffic. Every lap, everybody is in some sort of traffic.
Well, of course, little Al leads the championship by a whopping 20 points going into this race. The last time the man that won Indy went on to win the championship was 1989 when Emerson Fittipaldi won it. Can he sustain it?
Curtis got some problems in the pits. He stalled it as he tried to get away. There's a rookie problem, one he won't make more than twice.
Well, he certainly probably won't ever make that problem very many times, Paul, but that has happened to everybody. I mean, we watched the finest of them stall engines. If everybody just could imagine, these cars, until the blower pressure kicks in, just don't have but about 250 horsepower. So it's easy to stall them. You have to just really rump the gas down and let that clutch just go and slip and just go for it.
Unser Jr. in a fight for the lead. Fittipaldi 2 seconds just behind him. Closing, of course, on Tracy.
And you see the traffic problem again. Little Al would have liked to have gotten by Tracy right then to put him down another lap, but Michael Andretti was right in the way. Traffic is really a problem here again.
Now little Al gets his way down inside of Tracy, continues the pursuit of Michael Andretti.
Now, once Paul Tracy knew that little Al was there, he would have let him go. That would be good team. Good teamwork.
Whoa. Paul Tracy appears to be determined to get through this race without a mistake. He was in the doghouse at Indy after he made that mistake the day before qualifying. He had trouble in the race, couldn't earn his way out back into contention. And I remember last year when he had that fine drive at Portland, which is just 2 races away, into third. That's what ignited Tracy's big winning streak. So he needs a cautious race here today.
That's Paul Tracy right there, number 3, and he's always fast.
139 laps complete, Checkered.
Well, Paul, just what Sam Posey was saying was absolutely correct. The strategy for Team Penske right now, as this race is unfolded, is to allow Paul Tracy to have an error-free afternoon. They think he's solidly in 3rd place. They aren't going to make any major changes in his final stop. He has a slight understeer, but they said, let him get to the checkered flag and get a race under his belt. That'll help his confidence even more than if he tried to get racy for 2nd position.
Once again, the Penske cars took their stops ahead of the rest of the field. Unser Jr. and Fittipaldi have both completed theirs. Paul Tracy has yet to make his 2nd and final stop of the day.
We are looking at the possibility of a 1-2-3 sweep for the Penske team, who has just won Indianapolis, who had the pole at Indianapolis, and who won Long Beach and Phoenix before that. Right now, they look unbeatable.
Still got about 35, 37 laps to go, though, Sam. Remember that.
Unser Jr. has now picked up the point, the extra point for leading the most laps here today. We have run 141 laps, and every one of them under the green flag. Final stop still to come for much of the field.
This Ford Fact is brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately?
Over the last few seasons, we've seen the emergence of the Transverse gearbox in IndyCar racing. But what do we mean by transverse? If we take a look at a gear stack, it used to hang off the back of the car in a longitudinal manner. Now, it's called a transverse gearbox because it's mounted transversely. But most importantly, it's placed ahead of the rear axles. That really helps move the weight on the car forward, helps specifically in slow speed corners. That's called a dynamic advantage. Now what we also have is an aerodynamic advantage. It's much smaller back here. The all-important air that comes underneath the car, out of those tunnels, really helps in this area for increased downforce. In the old days, it took maybe 30 minutes to change gears. With this system, it takes 2 or 3 hours. You do lose some time in the pits, but out on the racetrack, it's a big advantage.
We're back at the Miller Genuine Draft 200 where Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race. His teammate Emerson Fittipaldi runs in second. Their teammate Paul Tracy is in third. And then Nigel Mansell, followed by Michael Andretti and Robbie Gordon. Those are the top 6 here. Al Unser Jr. is making child's play of the rest of the field. He is running a second ahead of his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi and a full lap ahead of everybody else in the field. And matter of fact, 2 laps ahead of most of the others in the field.
Emma's been able to stay within about 1 to 3 seconds of little Al all the time, Paul. And I think what this is doing is working itself up to be one heck of a good charge for the latter part of the race. I think probably what happened is Emma's really trying to save his tires, and you can bet the little Al knows it for the run right to the finish.
Of course, Bobby, the consequence of little Al staying ahead of Emerson in terms of the championship is that he will extend his 20-point lead even further and become even more of a favorite to win the championship.
All right, let's go back in the field now. Take a look at some of those others battling. Here is Buddy Lazier. Very likable young man, great skier. He runs right now in 19th, but he has been keeping his nose clean through most of the races this year and is beginning to carve out a name for himself in IndyCar racing, just like his dad.
You know, Paul, he missed the show at Indianapolis, but he got into a good car, the Himmelgarn car, late in the month. And if he'd have had, I know the boy, I know the team, if he'd have had one more day, there's no doubt in my mind, they blew an engine just he got in it. He'd had one more day, he would have made the race, and it's so important to his career.
We've just gone past the 3/4 point in the race. We're at lap 154, and still, every car that started is still running. Let's look up in the field now. Running in 15th position, there he is, the Pennzoil car of Teo Fabi.
Teo, of course, started 10th, and it looked as if they might have finally found the handle there. Remember that this is the Jim Hall-owned car. Jim Hall, whose teams have won at Indianapolis, who dominated the Can-Am Sports Car Series years ago with the famous Chaparrals. Teo Fabi, who took this series by storm, winning 5 races back in 1983. Somehow this mixture has not come together in a potent way this year yet. It may still.
And that's one of the Reynard cars, Tim.
So Teo Fabi, in 1983, was a rookie pole sitter, and he's a proven IndyCar winner.
We have 3 types of cars here. We have the Lola, of course, which has been the popular type. We have the new one that's a Reynard, and of course, the cars that are leading the race, the Penske cars.
They have chemistry in that team that just for some reason does not add up to the ingredients of the people in the team. I mean, they should be a front runner, and they're not, and no one understands why, and I think everybody, even some of their competitors, feel badly about it.
No battles anywhere in the field right now as Nigel Mansell from 4th place comes in for his stop, Gary.
Boy, Paul, what a difference a year makes. Remember, a year ago, it was Nigel who won this race in the dramatic restart over Raul Boesel. Today, he started 9th, but this team right now, frankly, says, we're running for first in class. That's how dramatically the Penske team has them covered. This was a great stop, 12.5 seconds.
And Gary, the yellow comes out as Mansell comes into the pits for that piece of debris out on the race cars. Our first yellow of the day, so last year's run at Nazareth still remains our last yellow-free race. And the kart safety team, IndyCar's right there.
Many years ago, Paul, I watched Milwaukee run from start to finish, and Mike Mosley won it. Never a yellow flag. And I'm starting to think with that little piece of debris on the track, we might have had another one just like it.
1982 that was. So on the 157th race lap, the leader, Al Unser Jr., slows down, and that's going to give a lot of cars an opportunity to stop. Here is Robbie Gordon in for his stop.
What, did you see all the smoke coming off his brakes as they came in on the Cummins car? He really had them smoking and hot there, the Valvoline Cummins car.
Let's go to Jack Arute.
And guys, we were trying to tell you that what happened is he started to come out of the pits. He stalled the engine. They managed to carry the forward momentum, and they were able to get it refired. Also, they are continuing to chase the handling. They were going down on the front wing.
So now the rest of the field under this yellow, which shouldn't take that long, as Johnny Rutherford driving the PPG pace car. We watch Michael Andretti making his stop. Again, routine, and they have time here. And this comes just ideally for most of the cars in the field.
And you can see he's got sticker tires on it. Watch that white just flashing around the right front there. Brand new tires.
The blend line here is just beyond the exit of the pits. Here is Bobby Rahal coming out.
Remember, passing is allowed in the pits.
But the speed limit in the pits, again, is only 80 miles an hour. That's from the entrance of the pit till the exit, and then they can go as fast as they want.
Raul Boesel, Mario Andretti, both head back to join the pack that is beginning to form now behind Johnny Rutherford. Unser Jr., the first in that line. And Emerson Fittipaldi will be able to close in right behind his teammate. Jack Arute?
Well, remember when we ran the last time on a mile at Phoenix International Raceway and we had those terrible problems during caution? First the Villeneuve and the accident with Jacques Villeneuve when I thought he was going to cut a car in half, and then of course Michael Andretti. Here's what Team Penske has devised. They have a small light on the dashboard of their cars now that when the caution comes out, they can turn the light on from the pits. They can send a signal to their drivers to back out of the throttle. Today, this was the first time they've had to use it. It worked quite well.
You know, that's such a good idea. I'm surprised they just don't write that into the rules, and maybe Nigel Bennett, the chief engineer and designer for that team, will in fact try to work that into the rules for next year.
Now remember, Little Al right there and Emerson right behind him have no cars in between them. We're going to go back to green pretty quick here. Now, their tires will have been cooled off a little bit because of the yellow flag. They're really going to see now who, between the two, has the fastest car.
Ready to go back to green flag racing on the 161st lap.
Oh, Little Al making Emerson slow down. You see Emerson tried to get a run on him, and Little Al slowed up. A lot of tactics being played out. Look at how slowly they're going right now.
Little Al wants to be able to pace back to the green at his own speed. By the way, now we do have a potential of rain just to the west of us here. The question is, will it pass over the track or will it miss us? We'll keep an eye out. 39 laps to go as we're ready to go back to green flag racing. And here we go. The green flag comes out again. Fittipaldi has a chance. This is it.
And remember, he can shoot off a Little Al right there. Sees where Little Al is. He gets his braking by what Little Al is doing in his braking.
Is Fittipaldi, Bobby, in a position of advantage right now because he's chasing?
Very definitely, because number one, Little Al's tires, all of them, build up a little bit. But for example, Little Al goes down, makes a slight mistake. Emil has that distance right there, as you see, to cure his, so he doesn't make the same one.
That's racecraft, though, what Little Al did there on that start. He knew he wanted to control the restart, not have Emo catch him.
Remember Emerson just 1 week ago in battle with Unser Jr., then leading the race. Slight mistake, Fittipaldi into the wall. Remember these two at Indianapolis when they battled.
Well, remember that they battled there, and they're battling again here. They may both run for the Penske team, but this is a pure race between them. We should understand that there are no team orders that determine who's going to win this race.
Absolutely, Sam. Penske does not do that. We know at times that he tries to do it for a championship at the end. This is not championship time. This is race time.
Well, this is an amazing fact. Both these men have won 21 IndyCar races. So this is the rubber match between them, folks. They've each won 21.
They're going to display the black flag for Jacques Villeneuve. He passed Jimmy Vasser on that restart, and so they'll bring him in for a stop-and-go penalty. He was running in 8th place.
Really hurts on a track like this because he can't do the stop and go without losing a lap.
We watch the lead of the race. Let's go back. This is Robbie Gordon. He runs in 5th place. Nigel Mansell is just ahead.
He's back up running a high groove again. Boy,
Yeah.
look at Michael comes underneath there. That's really close.
Let's go pit side and Jack.
Well, Paul, Derek Walker's radio to Robbie Gordon that the closing weather may shorten this race, and he knows that he has a shot at Nigel Mansell for position. He told his young charge, go for it now, don't hold anything back.
Well, you saw Michael come right around and move into fifth place around Robbie Gordon. Villeneuve has made his stop and go penalty now.
Often the mechanics or the team leaders tell the guys what to do, but sometimes they just can't do it. Sometimes they're already going as fast as they can.
I still find this astounding. 168 laps complete, and every car that started is still running. Boy, there's a tribute to the crews, the engineers, the mechanics that labor long hours over these cars. And remember, they just came off of the grueling month of May at Indianapolis. Boy, they're well prepared.
Well, it shows you that the whole series is just doing well on the engines and the transmission. To think that they haven't had an engine or a transmission problem today, it's really something.
And yellow for debris only. Obviously not a critical part off the race car because everybody's still going. Michael Andretti knows that Mansell's up there, and he has a chance. There's the look back from Mansell.
You can see when you're on board with Michael, it takes something to hold the helmets up. Between a helmet and a driver's head, a lot of G's of force really make their neck tired if they don't have something to hold it up.
170 laps now complete in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Unser Jr., we've got a car in trouble. Yellow will come out.
Stefan
Johannson.
Wow. The string finally broke.
Second yellow of the day. Obviously, Stefan is all right. He was running 13th at the time of the incident. So Stefan Johannson walks away from the first real incident of the day in the Miller Genuine Draft 200 on the Milwaukee Mile. We'll be back with more after this message and a word from our ABC station. Live at Milwaukee, where they still clean up Stefan Johansson's accident. Saturday, on a special edition of ABC's Wide World of Sports, Kentucky Derby winner Gopher Gin and the Preakness winner Tabasco Cat will go head-to-head in the final jewel of the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge, the Belmont Stakes. Live coverage begins at 4:30 Eastern, 3:30 Central, and 1:30 Pacific Time, Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Oh, you talked about the great history here at Milwaukee. Well, of course, that great history has resulted in a very abrasive, a very bumpy track surface that they've worked on throughout the years, and that was a concern for Goodyear. They came here with a brand new race tire, a slight construction change over what they've used in the past at Milwaukee because the surface is so abrasive. That tire has held up beautifully from what we've seen after the first two and the only scheduled pit stops of the day. Part of the problem is that there are places on the front straightaway where it's been grooved, and then there are places where they tried to grind it down to make it smoother, and so you get contrasting spots where you can put a rear tire in a groove section and a rear tire on the opposite side can be on a smooth section. That creates tremendous stress not only on the tire but the back part of the car. And thus far, from all reports we've had, and the fact that only one driver has fallen out of this race, everybody's doing a remarkable job.
A truly incredible job. That one driver, of course, Stefan Johannson, the reason for this yellow as the IndyCar safety teams get the track clean and ready to go. 175 laps are complete.
And Paul, while Gary was talking about the tires and the being hard on the rear ends, so everybody knows here in Milwaukee they run what they call a solid axle across the back, the same as they would for Milwaukee, not like a road course where they would be running limited slips.
All right, let's take a look now how they line up behind Johnny Rutherford in the BPG pace car. There's Fittipaldi and Unser Jr. with Unser Jr. in front. We're looking really for Michael Andretti, Nigel Mansell, that group. There's Michael. Robbie Gordon should be in here right behind. That will be a battle when we come back to green. Bobby Rahal will be just behind that battle, as will Raul Boesel. And there is Mansell.
The entire field lacking for the one car that's fallen out. Just imagine that with only about 24 laps to go.
Rahal, we're on board with him now, is running 7th. He's having another great performance at the driving.
They're having trouble getting the car of Stefan Johannson off of the course because it was locked in gear, and so now they're going to have to pick it up with the full boom wrecker and get it off. There's a race summary after 173 laps. Let's go pit side. Jack Arute is with Richard Buck, Little Al's crew chief.
And Richard, so far things seem to be going your way. Why have you elected to go with sticker tires on every stop?
Well, and just through all the testing that we've done here, that we didn't have really a heat problem, but the track is so abrasive right now. We wanted the maximum amount of rubber we could on the tire.
Now we get down to the final laps, and it's a reverse of the situation you were in at the Indianapolis 500. Any thoughts or anything you've said to Little Al?
Well, I mean, he's been in racing a long time. I mean, the smart thing to do is just let's not stick either of them in the fence. We got a long championship ahead of us here, and we're just out there to collect points,
Paul?
Richard Buck will watch his driver, Al Unser Jr. There's Johnny Rutherford, the PPG pace car. As we're getting reports of some sprinkles in the area, but not yet on the track.
You can bet that Little Al is not thinking the same way that Richard Buck is.
Let's go to Gary Gerould.
Well, Tony Bentonhausen stands here at pit entrance, and you had a problem earlier that affected your radiator and the temperatures, and that may have led to that motor going away, I understand.
Yes, Alumax aluminum Penske all day long. The temperature after about 60 laps was creeping up on us, and we tried to richen the fuel mixture to try to cool it down, and we started watching oil pressure go away, but didn't catch it quite in time. But, Detroit next weekend.
Thank you, Tony. Paul?
Well, we should be less than a lap to green as they come off of the second turn. There are some scattered reports of light moisture. Everybody's afraid to say rain or showers. Well, it's because it isn't that yet. The drivers will have the best point of view. The onboard cameras, in fact, will show you if they get some moisture on the track itself. And as we come back, we will be completing the 178th lap.
Now you know that Emil's going to have to push really hard now, because with the impending possible rain, he's going to have to, if he has a chance of getting Little Al, he has to do it just in case it does rain, Paul.
Emerson Fittipaldi chases Al Unser Jr. It is a battle for the lead in the Miller Genuine Draft 200.
Deja vu. It was just like this a week ago at Indianapolis. These are the two men that are really making the season. They stand 1-2 in the championship, and they're 1-2 in this race right now.
Same contestants, different engines. Back to the Elmore D engine for these two cars.
You can watch Little Al when he started the race. He ran a groove that would be more or less what he thought was in front of him to disturb the air, so it'd make it a little bit harder on him. Then after he gets a little bit of distance like this, he goes back to what feels good to him, or his normal groove.
And they indicate that the yellow flag comes out. There it is, and that is for rain. So on the 180th lap, there you got a good idea of moisture building up on the camera on Michael Andretti's car. So we are under yellow now the third time of the day, and this time it is because a light shower has moved into the Milwaukee area here at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds. We'll be back. Under yellow, there are 17 laps to go in the race. Light shower in the area, not enough to really dampen the track surface heavily, and there is the possibility that we could go back to green flag racing. On the other hand, there is the possibility that within the same week, Al Unser Jr. will win his second race under the yellow flag. So Al Unser Jr. is in front, Emerson Fittipaldi just behind him. We watch this race in this season. The name Mario Andretti and racing have been synonymous for the past 3 decades. Our Sam Posey had a chance to talk to him about his illustrious career.
For 30 years, his name has stood for speed. He is a racer to the core, passionate, fierce, romantic, and realistic.
On the overall, I've been very lucky. I think you could, as I say, here again, you could go back. Yeah, I wish I would have had a little more luck here or there. But what is luck? I mean, sometimes luck is being able to be around for a long period of time. I have so much to be thankful for, and really, that's the way I'm looking at the big picture of my entire career. The proudest moments in my career have been the times when I've been on the podium with my son, or when I've won weekend on a weekend where my other son, either Michael or Jeff, had won their own event, supporting event. Victories are wonderful, but those are really probably the most precious trophies I have on my mantle. There have been times when yes, I should feel defeated, if my son, my offspring, all of a sudden is going by me. And the first reaction was that because, you're a competitor and all that sort of thing. Then, the second reaction was, well, attaboy. Something really good. I knew retirement had to be somewhere. To be able to pick just the right time, I don't think is ever easy. Did I pick the right time? I'm not sure. At this point, I just don't want to push it. I just like to be able to walk away while I'm still a factor, still competitive, because I only derive satisfaction out of that. So for me, just to ride and ride just for sake of riding, no way. That day is going to come when, yes, perhaps I'm sure that I'm going to wish that I would still be going to the racetrack to be fitted up in the cockpit and be ready to drive that day. But again, I'm just trying so hard to be realistic that and realizing that those things just will not last forever.
So many emotions from one of the greats of all time in this sport, Mario Andretti. And Paul Newman, you've been instrumental in Mario's career in recent years, and I know there's disappointment today because that Penske team has made it like you're running for first in class. But reflect for a moment about what Mario Andretti has meant not only to you and your team, but to the world of motorsport.
Oh, nothing. It's just a privilege to be connected with him. He's, I don't know, he certainly was snake bit at Indianapolis, and I guess he's got valve problems here, but there aren't many like Mario in racing, and the same thing is true in film. So he's the Duke Wayne of the racing circuit.
It's a great analogy. We talked with Mario about his emotions in the final time at all of these tracks. Is it difficult for you with emotions when it comes to Mario, as you know he's making this tour and you're making it with him?
Yeah, it is. He's raced here since this is his 36th start.
Wow.
It's going to be difficult for him too, I suspect.
Well, we appreciate a few comments, and of course we pay tribute to one of the greats, Mario Andretti. Paul?
Of course, Mario, I think, was the emotional favorite going into the Indy 500 last week. Everyone was pulling for him. He was doing beautifully. He actually ran as high as third. He was fourth when he broke down on just lap 23 with another one of those little $5 parts. And it was really sad to see him go out that way. But in some ways, of course, it was typical. That was the story of Mario at Indy.
Well, the racing champion's fire still burns in his heart as he makes his Arrivederci tour. And the fans are all surrounding him at every race, saying, Mario, we wish you would stay. We'll be back. The black tire marks in the pits, indications of action earlier, but now we continue slow with just 10 laps to go in this run here, but we are still under yellow. Al Unser Jr. is the leader of the race. The IndyCar safety team trucks are both out constantly checking the track. With Roger Penske, you talk about winning. Bobby Unser scored 11 wins and won at Indianapolis. Big Al, 3 wins, won at Indy, and Al Unser Jr. just this year, 2 wins, including Indy. Is that an Unser graphic, or is that one for Penske, Bobby?
Well, that's one for Penske, and I wish I could start all over again. The other guys are catching up.
Let's go pit side, Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, never ceases to amaze me about the organization of Team Penske. No sooner did it begin to rain than Chuck Sprague sent out the word on the radio, break out the umbrellas. But Chuck, more importantly, got to have kind of mixed emotions right now with the rain. One car out in front, but you're calling the shots for Emerson Fittipaldi, and he's chomping at the bit.
Yeah, he's out there rationalizing. He said, well, the tires, they are slick, but there's no rooster tail yet. Yeah, just for the sake of safety, we don't want to take any chances. I mean, the way it's coming down now.
I think we're going to get the answer right now. Let's go back trackside.
Well, they're getting ready at the starter stand. Jim Swintel with a red flag and a checkered flag. The twin checkered flags are going to be displayed to Al Unser Jr., the way he won the Indianapolis 500 a week ago, and here it is today. They've decided they could not get the track to dry conditions within the remaining 8 laps, and so Al Unser Jr. has won 3 in a row Last time anybody won 3 in a row was Michael Andretti in 1991 when he won Vancouver, Mid-Ohio, and then Elkhart. But Team Penske has done it once again. And for Team Penske, it's 4 in a row.
And
Phoenix,
a 1, 2, 3
Long Beach,
finish.
Indianapolis, and here. And look at this, Sam.
Line abreast, finishing 1, 2, 3. We have not seen this for many, many years. It's an incredible, historic moment. Look at that.
They need to stick their chest out now because, like you said, Sam, you don't see that very often. That Penske has to be about the proudest guy that I could ever imagine.
So with the Penske cars finishing first, second, and third, 3 abreast, leading the rest of the field around, we'll be back to talk with the winner, Al Unser Jr., right after this. Well, Al Unser Jr. is singing in the rain as he takes the win in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. Here's Checkered.
And Paul doing backup as Emerson Fittipaldi, who finished second, and Paul Tracy. They've joined us all in victory lane. First of all, Al, congratulations, a three-peat. Now you've got 3 in a row.
Yeah, well, I just want to thank my guys. You know, this team with Paul and Emerson and all the guys, all the engineers, Roger giving us the best cars, Nigel Bennett designing them. I tell you, this is one heck of a treat to drive for this race team.
Emerson Fittipaldi, I know you've got to have mixed emotions when the rain came, but have you ever been part of a 3-car tandem across the start-finish line for a checkered flag before?
I mean, that's fantastic. Our Junior did, again, a great job. I'm very pleased. All the Marlboro Team Penske crew, we had a fantastic work. I mean, 1, 2, 3, what else we need? And then I'm looking for Indy next year again.
And how about you, Paul Tracy? So many tough times in the early going, and now after Indianapolis, you come back for a solid 3rd-place finish.
I'm pretty happy. It's great to see everybody's up, and had a great finish, 1, 2, 3 with the Marlboro crew, and just wish my car had handled better, but Al and Emerson put on a good show, and I was just sitting back waiting for the checker to come out.
Tell you what, Paul Page, I've covered a lot of races, but I've never seen anything like this. Now, Al, let me ask you one question, though. On one of the restarts, it looked as if you were trying to hold Emerson back just a little bit. Were you playing some games with your teammate, or did maybe Uncle Bobby tell you a little something about the Milwaukee Mile?
Well, I tell you, you know, Dad and Uncle Bobby had told me a lot about this place, and, you know, we were just trying to get the jump on him, and I really didn't think there was going to be another yellow. And so, you know, we jumped and we got on it early, and then I had to do it all over again, and he was more ready for it then.
So many people were worried that you would get teamed up with Penske in your career. What do you think the limit is for Al Unser Jr.?
Well, I don't know. You know, we're just looking for the number 1 on the Marlboro car, and, you know, we're just trying to get that done.
Gary?
With Michael Andretti. Michael, how frustrating is it to basically be running for first in class when you watch those Penske tires in the day they had today?
It was tough watching them go by us on the outside. It seemed like every other lap there was a red and white car going by us. But, you know, my hat's off to them. They just did a great job. They seemed to work together well, get all the setups together, and, you know, they did a good job.
Well, we appreciate your efforts. We'll see you in Detroit next week as we go back up to Paul for final standings.
And, of course, we'll have coverage of the run at Detroit here on ABC Sports. Here are the unofficial results with the Penske team at the top of the order. Al Unser Jr. led 156 of 191 laps. They cut it short by 9 miles. And what does that all do to the point standings? Well, we'll take a look at the PPG points in a race that only saw Stefan Johannson fall out. Al Unser Jr. has a very strong lead in PPG points now, but then once again, it's still very early in the season as the Penske cars finish 1, 2, and 3 on the Milwaukee Mile in the Miller Genuine Draft 200. I'm Paul Page for Bobby Unser, Sam Posey, Jack Arute, and Gary Gerould. We'll see you next week in Detroit. So long for now.
The Miller Genuine Draft 200 has been brought to you by cold-filtered Miller Genuine Draft. Get out of the old, get into the cold. Valvoline, people who know use Valvoline. Goodyear, #1 in tires. And Toyota, makers of the exciting all-new Celica. Watch out, it's here. Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, it's the final jewel in the Chrysler Triple Crown Challenge. Go for Gin and Tabasco Cat go head-to-head in the Belmont Stakes, live. Now, stay tuned for your local news and World News Sunday over most of these ABC stations. This has been a presentation of ABC Sports, recognized around the world as the leader in sports television.